My name is Winter Storm, and thank you for joining me on my narration of my book, The Templar's Calling. In the last episode, we discovered why Winter and Stefanie, now called Hawke, have traveled to Brevard and have met with David and Eric, representatives of the Templars and the Anointed. With that said, let's jump straight in, shall we? Winter rises to his feet, his movements fluid and unhurried as he gently places his hand against Eric's chest and simply moves him aside. Not a shove, not a challenge, just removal. You didn't want me when you thought I was just an albino freak of nature, Winter says evenly. A mistake born in this storm and left on a doorstep. His eyes lift, cold and steady. Whatever you think I am, he says quietly, you don't get to be the one who claims me. Eric looks down at the hand on his chest, then brushes it aside. Fine, go to the Templars, but one day you're going to wish you had joined the winning side. Once Eric retreats to his office, Winter's eyes cut to David. Don't think I'm joining the Templars just because I'm not joining the Anointed. You still need to convince me this is where I belong. David sets the glass slate carefully on the table. That's fair. And I won't, that's fair, he says. And I won't pretend otherwise. Eric had a point. I don't know how to fit you in. But just because I don't doesn't mean my superiors won't. He pushes his chair back and stands. So instead of wasting any more of your time here, why don't we go let them decide? One condition, Winter says, resting his hand on Hawke's shoulder. Hawke comes with me. David's eyes cut to Hawke, who now stands beside Winter, a hint of a smirk playing at her lips. I'll make them aware. It will take a few days to get an officer here to make any determinations. Can I offer the two of you a place to stay in the meantime? Maybe some literature on magic and how to use it? A place to stay would be nice, Hawke cuts in. A nice one, please. She tilts her head. What kind of literature do you have to offer? As David and Hawke discuss books, Winter steps a few paces away and rubs at his shoulder, that phantom ache stirring again. His gaze drifts towards Eric's office door. The Templars and the Anointed aren't exactly friendly with one another, but they've always remained civil, or so he'd believed. Winter, Hawke's voice cuts through his thoughts. David has booked a cabin for us to stay in. He's even given us these. Winter scans the titles, noting that they focus on their elemental affinities. Do you have any books on fire and earth magic? We do, David replies, but spells outside your natural affinity are significantly more difficult to control. I'd suggest starting with basic magic. Those broader principles are in that pamphlet Hawke was Hawke is reading. Sorry, let me try that part again. Those broader principles are in that pamphlet Hawke is reading. The road out of town unwinds into long stretches of darkened trees and sloping hills. The silence between them this time isn't heavy. It's simply there, comfortable. The books Hawke claimed from David sit stacked at her feet, pamphlet folded open in her hands, though she isn't really reading it. At a stoplight, her eyes drift to the mirror, then to the loose fall of pale hair at the back of Winter's neck. The red ribbon is still tied there, soft and defiantly bright against its history. You ever think about replacing that thing? She asks lightly. Winter glances at her. The ribbon? Yeah, looks like it's survived a war or two. Probably has, he says after a beat. Hawke smiles faintly, then shrugs. I like it. It's human. Makes you look less like you're about to walk into a legend, and more like you're just a guy driving a truck through the mountains. His eyes return to the road. His hand lifts briefly, touching the knot at the nape of his neck without thinking. Good, he says. The light turns green. The road carries them on. The cabin is nothing like what Winter expected. From the drive, it looks like a. Sorry. From the drive, it looks like a fragment of modern architecture wedged gently into the trees. Clean lines and dark green siding set against earth and shadow. The porch juts outward on angled supports, suspended over the slopes like it's leaning forward to listen. Warm light spills from tall windows, cutting gold through the dusk and the branches. It doesn't look like shelter. It looks intentional. Man, I cannot talk today. My bad. Inside, ugh. I will learn how to talk one day. Inside, the space opens in quiet surprise. The kitchen and dining area share the same warm stretch of polished wood floors, everything clean and orderly without feeling staged. A heavy wooden table sits at the corner, already set with plates and glasses as if someone expected them. Beyond it, a dark couch lines one wall, bright pillows scattered across it like someone once tried to make the place feel lived in. The far wall is almost entirely glass. Sliding doors look out onto the porch and the trees beyond, the forest pressed close and watching. The light from outside bleeds in softly, mixing with the cabin's warm interior glow. Somewhere overhead, a ceiling fan hums faintly. Hawke lets out a low breath. Okay. Yeah. This beats a motel. Winter doesn't answer right away. His eyes linger on the windows, on the way the cabin holds the outside world just at arm's length, close enough to feel, far enough to stay safe. For now. Winter takes stock of what the cabin has to offer, then decides to make a run to the grocery store. To his mild surprise, Hawke decides to stay behind, suggesting she'll start reading one of the books David lent them. The trip doesn't take long. Still, he notices there are far more scions here than in Fayetteville, primarily werewolves, judging by their builds and the faint, ever-present scent of wet fur beneath the air. They watch him, their animal eyes gauging him, but he makes no sign that it bothers him, collecting a small variety of meat, vegetables, and cooking essentials before returning to his truck and heading back down the mountain road. When he returns, he finds Hawke in the living room, barefoot, in shorts and a tank top, engrossed in the book in her hands, lying on her back across the couch. Did you know the same elements can create different sub-elements? She asks as he steps inside. Yeah, he replies, moving into the kitchen and setting the grocery bags on the counter. Water and earth magic can influence plants or create poisons. And apparently light and air magic can be used for both healing and certain combat spells, Hawke adds, sitting up and setting her book aside before wandering into the kitchen. So, what's for dinner? I grabbed fish, steaks, or chicken. We've got options for vegetables, Winter says, pulling a pan from a cabinet. I was thinking of salmon and rice. Maybe some asparagus. Sounds good? If you're the one cooking, Hawke says, grinning as she spins a table out from the table and drops into it. I'll try anything. The faintest hint of a smile touches Winter's face as he starts the salmon and rice, pulling out a pack of bacon and wrapping the asparagus with practiced care. The next few minutes pass in uncomplicated silence, each of them content in the quiet presence of the other. Not to look a gift horse in the mouth, Hawke says at last, leaning against the back of her chair. But why'd you demand that I come with you? Winter's movements pause for the briefest moment, then continue. You went out of your way to keep me company when we were in the service. You still go out of your way to help me. He doesn't look at her as he says it. Must admit, he adds more quietly, I've grown to rely on your support. A faint flush rises to Hawke's cheeks as she lifts her hand, pretending she's about to flick him. When she does, a playful gust of wind tugs at the end of his ponytail, drawing his attention to the smile she doesn't bother hiding. Well, she says lightly, you've always had it hard talking to people. Figured you could use at least one friend. His smile widens, but only just. A few minutes later, dinner is ready. The two eat in easy, mutual silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. When they're done, they drift back to the living room and the stack of books from David. Winter notices that Hawke rarely lingers on any one volume for long, sometimes plucking the book straight from his hands and replacing it with whatever she's just finished, as if conducting some quiet, unspoken curriculum. Before turning in for the night, Winter runs through his exercises, takes a shower, and finally settles into bed. The next couple of days pass in much the same rhythm, reading, training, quiet meals, until midway through the second day, when Hawke finally closes the last of David's books. Winter, she whines, setting the book down. We're out of books. Winter thumbs through the last few pages of his own before setting it aside. So it would seem. David said a few days, right? Meaning at least one more and at most two. Hawke glances out the window, then pops to her feet, grabbing her books and knapsack. Let's go pay him a visit, see if he has anything else for us to read. Winter's eyes track her from boots to hair, one eyebrow lifting. Maybe a change of clothes first? I can do that in the truck. Let's go. Color creeps into Winter's face as he exhales and shakes his head. No. Go change in your room, then we'll go. Hawke pouts, then lobs her boots at him lazily as she heads for her room. Get the air running, will you? Winter catches the boots easily, then heads out to the truck and fires it up, holding his hand over the vents and drawing a sharp stream of cold air through the cab to force circulation. Hawke comes out shortly after, still in her shorts and tank top, now cinched neatly with a belt, her dirty blonde hair pulled up and out of her face. Winter hands her the boots as she hops into the truck, and a moment later they're back on the road, weaving their way toward Brevard. As they pull up, they spot David outside, walking the edge of the park with his phone in hand, so they stop nearby and step out to meet him. He greets them both with a handshake, sliding his phone into his pocket as he does. Apologies for the wait. My boss said she'll be here tomorrow, if that helps. It does, Winter replies, handing him the books. Just wanted to return these. Nothing appeal to you? David asks curiously. Finished them about an hour ago, Hawke says. We were hoping you might have more books on magic. Oh, David laughs, shaking his head. You two must be fast readers. I still have those 2 books on earth and fire magic, but I can only loan out basic level spells to prospects. He gestures back towards the building. But if you're interested, let's head to my office and I'll get those other books for you. The office isn't far from the park, and within minutes, David is already handing Winter the books detailing earth and fire magic. He then presses a third book into Hawke's hands, offering a conspiratorial wink. This is something I've been studying for a while now. It's advanced magic, but considering how quickly you tore through the others, I suspect you might enjoy this one. Hawke mirrors his wink, then passes the book to Winter. I appreciate that. I'll try not to be too slow about returning it. Hopefully not too fast, David says with a laugh. I've been studying that one for several years now. I'd be deeply embarrassed if you brought it back within the year. Sounds like a challenge, Hawke says, shaking his hand before the two turn to leave. Should we come here tomorrow, or wait for your boss to come find us? She's a go getter, David replies, so I suspect she'll come to you. I've got your number if I need to call. You'll like her, and considering the fuss she's already making, she likes the sound of you. He smiles faintly. Hope you don't mind, but I was going to let her know how quickly you got through those books. It'll really pique her interest. I'd rather you didn't, Winter says firmly. No offense, but I don't want to lead anyone on too strongly. Think of it as a pleasant surprise if we do join, and something they don't need to know if we don't. Fair? David's eyes narrow slightly before he nods. You like to play your cards close to your chest. I can respect that. Thank you, Winter says, shaking his hand again. For what it's worth, I do hope things work out. As do I, David replies. I'd very much like to see you in action. Want to go? Hawke asks, a devilish grin spreading across her face. I want to see what Templar fighting looks like. I want to put some of my magic to the test. David lifts an eyebrow, glancing briefly towards Eric's closed office door, then shrugs. I've got a few minutes to spare. Want to head to the gym? They've got a ring I have permission to use. Once they reach the gym, David unbuttons the top button of his shirt, then slips into the ring with Hawke. We'll keep this simple, hand to hand and basic spells only. Agreed? Hawke looks to Winter. He nods. She nods back, settling into a fighting stance. David mirrors her, hands open, gaze focused. They clash immediately. David catches Hawke's kick at the shin as Hawke snags his incoming fist at the wrist. A sudden gust of wind surges through her leg, amplifying the strike and knocking his guard aside. She lunges to close the distance, and slams to a stop inches from a wall of fire, the heat nearly singeing her hair as she snaps backward out of range. Clever, David comments, wiping a thumb beneath his nose and wiping away the blood. Sorry about the flames. Hope I didn't catch you. You didn't, Hawke replies casually. Your nose good? I've had worse, he resets his stance. They circle each other for a few moments, testing footing and distance, but it's obvious David is holding back. Eventually, he lifts his hands in surrender. Your natural talents are scary, Hawke. With a little more practice, I won't be able to get away with using just basic level spells. She grins, shakes his hand, then lifts her other palm. Hold still. David's eyes widen slightly, but he nods as she hovers her hand just above his nose. A soft yellow light blooms from her palm and washes over his face. When she finishes, he tests his nose gingerly between his fingers, then nods in approval. I had a feeling healing magic would be right up your alley. Seems I was right. Mind if I have a go? Winter asks, stepping up to the ring. David looks at him and smiles with unmistakable anticipation, nodding once. I've been waiting for that. Same rules? I'd prefer no holds barred, Winter comments, cracking his knuckles. I want to see what level my ice magic has reached. I haven't been able to really practice in years, so I'm thinking journeyman, maybe expert. David's eyes flash. Well, I'm considered an expert with in fire magic, and an apprentice in air. Shall we start with air and work our way up? And no soulbound, obviously. Sounds good, Winter says, sliding into his stance as rime crawls across his fists in an instant, frosting his knuckles in pale ice. David takes one look and snorts. Never mind. I'm going straight to fire magic. That frost will tear me up if I don't. Whatever you're comfortable with, Winter says, already lunging forward. David meets his fist with his own, frost and flame colliding in a bloom of hissing steam across the ring. Hawke watches from the corner, her eyes never leaving the scene before her. David and Winter exchange blows not like strangers sparring, but like two lifelong rivals testing familiar limits, eagerly pushing each other faster, harder, stronger. I think that will do it for today. I apologize for the my inability to speak, for lack of a better term, or read, as the case would be. Um, Real quick, I would like to go over the questions real quick. Um, I believe last time I asked if there was any moments that caught your attention, anything that has had you asking questions. Um, in this case, for this episode, my question is in the previous section, we see Stefanie decide to change her name from Stefanie to Hawke, and you we have not really seen a whole lot of questions related to that. I'm wondering if any of y'all are more curious about why she has changed her name, and if there are any, you know, what are the reasons? What does it symbolize? I want to hear your theories. So, with that said, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.